Welcome back to Occult Archives, where we uncover the mysteries, myths, and legends behind history's most feared books.
From mystical grimoires to ancient religious texts.
These books carry secrets too dangerous to be read.
I'm excited for this one.
Episode 202, The Magic Presence Encounters with the Ascended Masters.
The Magic Presence, you brought this one to us, right?
Yeah, this book was recommended by a listener. I don't think we've ever had a book quite like this one.
Okay, I can see why this one's a little different.
So we're going to deep dive into this book today, and let's get started. So, The Magic Presence is a book that details the author Godfré Ray King's experiences and revelations received through the guidance of this ascended master, Saint Germain. It's sort of built on concepts that were introduced in a previous book called Unveiled Mysteries.
Unveiled Mysteries. Okay, so this is like a part 2.
Yeah, and we're going to be focusing on the Magic Presence today, just to kind of keep it concise. But yeah, this book, it delves into these encounters with these beings of advanced spiritual attainment, these ascended masters, as they're called. And it talks about these extraordinary events that the author experienced and the teachings that he received, which center around this idea of inner divine power and love.
Okay, so going into this just for myself, and I'm sure some of the listeners are probably wondering the same thing. Ascended Masters, we hear that term a lot in these types of circles, but what exactly does that mean?
Right. So ascended masters in this context are basically individuals who have reached a very, very high level of spiritual development, and they've transcended the cycle of reincarnation. They've kind of achieved a state of mastery, and they're able to help and guide humanity from a higher realm. They're kind of like spiritual mentors, you could say.
Okay, so they exist outside of our reality, but they're able to communicate with us and...
Exactly, and influence events and, offer guidance and teachings. So the book begins with Godfré Ray King meeting this man named Daniel Rayborn and his family in the Rocky Mountains. And the way Rayborn and his family are described, it's almost like they're like these superhumans. They're tall. They have piercing blue or violet blue eyes. They radiate this sense of harmony and honor.
I'm picturing them like those really tall people in that movie. Or what was
it?
Man from Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so there's something special about them.
Yeah, and even their home is described as this kind of a mystical place. It was inherited from an uncle who was interested in what they call higher research work, and had traveled to India and Arabia. So there's this kind of a sense of mystery and esoteric knowledge surrounding them right from the beginning.
Okay. I like that higher research work. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a very, very vague term, but it's used throughout the book to refer to anything that's kind of like, occult or esoteric or spiritual in nature.
Okay. So kind of the things that we like to dive into. So they live in this kind of mystical, almost like a mystery house almost.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. So we meet these very special people, and what happens next?
Well, right away, we get into these anecdotes that suggest that there's something truly extraordinary going on. So, for instance, there's this story about how Daniel Rayborn's wife was a very talented opera singer, but she suffered from terrible stage fright.
Stage fright. Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
And so one day she's about to perform, and she's just overwhelmed with this fear, and then Saint Germain appears.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he just touches her hand, and instantly her stage fright is gone. And she goes on to give this amazing performance.
Just like that?
Just like that.
So he has these powers or this ability to just kind of erase these.
Yeah, it seems that way. It's presented as a very real and tangible event.
Wow.
And then there's another story where Saint Germain warns Daniel Rayborn about this potential accident that was about to happen. And because of this warning, Rayborn is able to avoid this near-death experience.
So he's almost like a guardian angel in a way.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
Interesting. Okay, and how does Godfré Ray King fit into all of this?
Well, King is kind of the observer and the student in all of this. He's accompanying the Rayborn family, and he's witnessing all of these events firsthand. And he's also receiving teachings from Saint Germain along the way.
Okay, so it sounds like this Saint Germain is a very central character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's really the main ascended master that's featured in the book.
Okay.
And one thing that King mentions repeatedly is this feeling of a dynamic electrical current whenever he's in the presence of Saint Germain or in certain locations.
Yeah.
It's like there's this tangible energy that's associated with these ascended masters.
So it's not just like a presence. They're not just like Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's like there's something...
Right, there's something more to it.
Yeah, there's like a physical, almost manifestation of their energy.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Very cool. So, okay, we've met these amazing people. We've seen this ascended master who can erase stage fright and warn people of danger. What are some of the main teachings that are in this book?
Well, the core teaching really revolves around this concept of the mighty I am presence. It's this idea that each of us has this divine spark within us, this inner divinity that's the source of all power and all good.
Okay, so it's like this inner God or this inner power.
Exactly. And the book really emphasizes that we need to look to this mighty I am presence for guidance and for strength.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to direct love outward from this inner source.
Mm-hmm. And is this different from just like being a good person or?
It's kind of like that, but it's more about recognizing that this power, this goodness, comes from within. It's not something that we have to strive for. It's something that's already there.
Okay, so it's not about earning it. It's about like remembering it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the mighty I am presence.
Right. And the book promises that when we align ourselves with this mighty I am presence, we can receive unlimited assistance from the Ascended Masters.
So the more in tune we are with this power, the more help we get from above.
That's the idea, yeah.
Okay, and what else do we know about Saint Germain besides the fact that he can make people better performers?
Well, Saint Germain is described as an emissary from the Great White Brotherhood.
The Great White Brotherhood, now that sounds like
Yeah, it sounds very mysterious.
like a secret society.
It is. It's basically a group of these Ascended Masters who are working together to help humanity.
Okay, so it's like a league of extraordinary gentlemen, but they're ascended masters.
Exactly.
Like, gotcha.
And Saint Germain is kind of like their representative on Earth, you could say.
And he's specifically interested in America.
Right. He calls America the jewel of my heart. And he's said to be working to bring spiritual illumination to this country.
Interesting. Okay, and what about this connection to Jesus? I read something about that.
Yeah, so the book actually mentions that Jesus is working alongside Saint Germain and that their rays of light, which are these tangible currents of energy, are offering blessings to those who are open to receiving them.
So there's this kind of divine teamwork happening.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And the book also presents some very unique perspectives on death and grief.
Okay, like what?
Well, it says that when we die, our consciousness doesn't just disappear. It continues to exist in this higher mental body, and we can still connect with our loved ones who have passed on.
So death is not the end.
Right. It's just a transition to a different form of existence.
That's kind of comforting.
Yeah. And the book even goes so far as to say that excessive grief is actually a form of selfishness.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah, it's a very bold statement.
kind of harsh.
Yeah. But the idea is that when we focus too much on our own sorrow, we're not acknowledging the eternal nature of the mighty I am presence, and we're not allowing ourselves to move forward.
Okay, so it's about kind of shifting your perspective from sadness to maybe like gratitude or appreciation.
Right. And focusing on the positive aspects of their life and the fact that their spirit lives on.
Okay, I can see that.
Now, the book also takes us on this amazing journey through these underground cities and laboratories where Ascended Masters and their students are working on all sorts of advanced technologies.
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting.
All right, so for example, there's this one story about how Daniel Rayborn was having trouble with a mine that he was working on. And Saint Germain appears and tells him to go back to a certain spot on the mine and dig there. And Rayborn does. And he finds this incredibly rich vein of ore.
Oh, so it's like divine intervention for profit.
Well, it's more about demonstrating the power of the Ascended Masters and their ability to help those who are aligned with them.
Okay, but also profit.
I mean, yeah, there's that too.
Okay, so Saint Germain helps them strike gold literally.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's this other story about a visit to this place called the Cave of Symbols, which is said to contain all sorts of ancient wisdom and secrets. But the details of what's inside the cave are kind of kept hidden, and we're told that they'll be revealed later.
Oh, that's like a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Oh.
And then we learn about these sealed cities and laboratories that are hidden beneath the earth. And these are places where Ascended Masters and their trained students are working to perfect formulas and technologies that will be used to help humanity in the future.
Like what kind of technologies?
Well, one of the most fascinating ones is this thing called the atomic accelerator.
The atomic accelerator, that sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's basically a device that can quicken atomic vibration and raise the human body into this pure electronic body.
A pure electronic body. What is that?
It's kind of like a higher state of being.
Yeah.
What Jesus referred to as the seamless robe or the bridal garment. It's basically a body that's free from the limitations of the physical world.
So it's like a spiritualized body.
Exactly. And the atomic accelerator is said to be able to help people achieve this state.
So is this like a technology that actually exists, or is it more of a...
That's a good question. The book presents it as a real and tangible technology, but obviously there's no scientific evidence to support its existence.
Right, so it's up to the reader to decide how to interpret it.
Right. And the book also describes these underground chambers that are filled with all sorts of advanced equipment like electrical furnaces and rollers. And this equipment is used for material creation.
Hmm. Like 3D printing, but like way more advanced.
Yeah, you could think of it like that. But it's all powered by this mysterious electrical force that seems to be connected to the Ascended Masters.
So it's like alchemy meets electricity.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's even this one story about how Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family were taken to these magnificent rooms underground, and they were bathed and clothed in these beautiful garments that just appeared out of nowhere.
Okay, so it's like a spa day with the Ascended Masters.
Yeah, it's very strange and wonderful. And then they have this incredible dining experience where the food just seems to materialize from this omnipresent universal substance.
So it's like they can just create food out of thin air.
Right, and it's described as being incredibly delicious and energizing, and then after each course, the service items just disappear.
That's a pretty good cleanup crew.
Right, yeah, no dishes to wash.
I like that.
And then there's this other story about how Nada and Rex Rayborn performed a piano duet on this instrument that had this incredible tonal quality. And after they finished playing, Saint Germain just stood there for a moment in silence. And then he said, "That is the mighty I Am presence manifesting through sound."
Oh, wow. So it's like music is a pathway to connecting with the divine.
Right. It's like a form of worship or a way to express the divine through art.
Okay.
And the book also talks about these advanced forms of communication that the Ascended Masters use, like the sound ray and the light ray, which are described as being like the highest form of television.
So they have like spiritual Zoom calls?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But even more advanced because they can transmit thoughts and images directly without any kind of physical equipment.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the book emphasizes this idea that the mighty I Am presence provides perfect conditions, and that fear only arises when we don't understand this.
So it's about trusting in the divine plan even when things seem difficult.
Exactly. Now, one of the most dramatic events in the book is the ascension of this character named David.
Ascension, what does that mean?
So David is a student of Saint Germain's, and he's been working on his spiritual development for a long time. And one day he's in this electrical laboratory, and the room suddenly fills with this dazzling white light. And David's physical appearance begins to transform, and then his body just disappears, and he's raised into this electronic perfection.
Wow. So it's like he transcends his physical form.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book says that this is a real and permanent event, that David has achieved this higher state of being.
And the atomic accelerator was involved in this somehow, right?
You're right. It said that the atomic accelerator can be used to help people ascend in this way.
It's not just for healing and creating objects. It can also help people like transcend reality.
Right. It's very powerful technology. Now, the book goes on to explain the nature of divine love and creation. And it describes this great fire breath that pulsates within the pure God flame. And this fire breath has the attributes of love, wisdom, and power. And it emanates into pure electronic light, which is the universal substance from which everything is made.
Whoa, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. It's a very complex and mystical concept. But the basic idea is that divine love is the ultimate creative force in the universe.
Okay, and how does that relate to the mighty I Am presence?
Well, the book says that when we acknowledge and release the power of the I Am, we're tapping into this divine love, and we're able to create our own reality.
So our thoughts and our feelings and our words have the power to shape reality.
Exactly. And the universal substance acts like a photographic film that records the qualities that we impose upon it.
So we have to be careful what we think and say.
Right, because it can manifest in our lives.
Okay, so it's like the law of attraction, but on a cosmic scale.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this divine love is like the key ingredient.
Exactly. And the book says that divine love contains the perfect activity of every attribute of the Godhead, and that we should strive to accomplish everything through its power.
So it's not about like willpower or effort. It's about aligning with this divine love.
Right. And when we do that, we become these incredibly powerful beings we can command through the mighty I Am presence, and nothing can stop us.
Wow, that's very empowering.
Yeah, it is. And then the book takes us to this place called the Crystal Chamber, which is filled with ravishing music and the presence of 10 ascended masters.
10 ascended masters. That's a lot of ascended masters in one room.
Yeah, it's a very special place. And within this chamber, Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family are shown revelations about their past lives in a mirror.
Oh, wow. So they get to see their past life.
Right. And it's revealed that Pearl and Nada and Rex are all twin rays.
Twin rays, what does that mean?
So twin rays are basically two souls that were created together, and they're destined to reunite and work together for a divine purpose.
So it's like soulmates, but on a cosmic level?
Exactly. And the revelations in the mirror show how Pearl and Nada and Rex have been working together throughout their many lifetimes to serve humanity.
Oh, that's cool. So they've been like a team for centuries.
Right. And the book emphasizes that the ultimate goal of twin rays is to acknowledge the mighty I Am presence and to work together to bring about a golden age on Earth.
Wow, that's a pretty big mission.
It is.
Uh-huh.
And then we're introduced to this character named Alexander Gaylord, who's described as a secret messenger of the Great White Brotherhood.
A secret messenger, so like a spy for the Ascended Masters.
Yeah, kind of. He's been working for them for 7 years, and he has influence in high circles.
So it's like the Ascended Masters have their agents working behind the scenes.
Right, and Gaylord actually helps Daniel Rayborn attend a council of the Ascended Masters in Arabia while he's in his finer body.
His finer body, what is that?
So the finer body is basically a non-physical aspect of ourselves that can travel outside of the physical body.
Okay, so it's like astral projection.
Yeah, exactly.
So Rayborn's like astral projecting to Arabia to meet with the Ascended Masters.
Right, and Gaylord is helping him do it.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. And the book suggests that we all have the potential to develop these abilities.
That's pretty cool. So anyone listening right now could potentially astral project to Arabia and meet with the Ascended Masters.
Well, in theory, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes a lot of training and discipline.
Okay, well, maybe we'll save that for another episode.
Now, the book also talks about this paramount command of the Eternal, which is, be ye perfect.
Be ye perfect. That's a pretty tall order.
It is. And the book explains that this command applies to all of us, and that we'll continue to reincarnate until we've achieved this state of perfection.
So we're all on this journey to become perfect.
Right. And the book says that we're living in a time of great spiritual expansion, and that it's more important than ever to maintain control over our thoughts, feelings, and words.
Because our thoughts and feelings and words are creating our reality.
Exactly. And the book says that we need to move from war to peace, from hatred to love, from selfishness to unselfishness.
So it's like a call to action to raise our consciousness.
Right. And the book also describes some pretty amazing demonstrations of the Ascended Master's power.
Like what?
Well, for instance, Saint Germain is said to be able to manifest gold and diamonds out of thin air.
Oh, wow. So he's like a spiritual magician.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
And he actually creates rings and necklaces as gifts for Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family.
Okay, so he can just like materialize objects out of nothing.
Right, and the book explains that this is possible because Saint Germain understands the laws that govern the universe, and he's able to manipulate those laws to create whatever he wants.
So it's not magic, it's science.
Well, it's kind of both. It's science, but it's science that's so advanced that it seems like magic to us.
Okay, I can see that. And what about this no meat thing? I remember reading about that.
Yeah, so the book strongly advises against eating meat. And the reason for this is that when animals are slaughtered, their fear is recorded in their flesh. And when we eat that flesh, we're taking in that fear, and it can negatively impact our consciousness.
So it's like eating meat is bad for your spiritual vibes.
Right. And the book says that it can also make us more susceptible to negative influences.
Okay, so it's best to stick to veggies.
Right.
Okay. And what about the robes of light? You mentioned those earlier.
So the robes of light are these garments that are made of pure light, and they're worn by the Ascended Masters. And the book says that when we meditate, we can actually see and hear within the world of the Ascended Masters, and we can even witness our own mighty I Am presence.
So it's like meditation can transport us to a higher realm.
Exactly. And it allows us to connect with our own divinity.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Now, as the book goes on, Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family are planning a trip to Washington, D.C. But Saint Germain tells them to focus solely on the mighty energy of God and to not let anything distract them.
So even though they have this trip planned, the most important thing is to stay connected to the divine.
Right. And on their journey, they meet this woman named Lanto, who can consciously leave her body.
Oh, wow. She can astral project.
Right. And she actually teaches Godfré Ray King and Nada how to do it.
That's pretty advanced.
Yeah. And Saint Germain says that it's no coincidence that both sets of twin rays, Pearl and Rex and Nada, and you are ready for this instruction at the same time.
Wait, he's talking to the reader?
Yeah, he's speaking directly to you, the listener.
Whoa, that's meta.
Right. It's like he's acknowledging that you're part of this journey too.
Okay, so I'm a twin ray with Nada.
Well, that's what the book is suggesting.
Interesting.
And Leto also has this seamless garment that she's precipitated from pure light substance.
Precipitate, what does that mean?
So precipitation in this context is basically the process of manifesting something from the universal substance using conscious attention, feeling, and knowledge of vibratory rates.
So it's like creating something out of thin air, but with more intention.
Right. And Leto explains that anything can be precipitated if you have the right knowledge and the right focus.
Hmm. So we could potentially create anything we want.
In theory, yes. But it takes a lot of mastery.
Okay.
And then Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family have this incredible experience where they project their consciousness to the sun.
They go to the sun.
Yeah, they actually travel to the sun in their finer bodies.
Wow. And what do they find there?
Well, they find this incredible city of the sun that's inhabited by these perfected beings.
Hmm.
And they learn that the sun's energy is actually electronic and that it only becomes heat when it enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Whoa, so the sun is not actually hot?
Not in its pure form.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. And then Leto gives them more instruction on how to consciously leave and return to the body. And she emphasizes that the key is to focus on the mighty I am presence.
So mighty I am presence is like the anchor that keeps you grounded even when you're traveling to the sun.
Exactly. And finally, they arrive at this magnificent retreat in the Himalayas where they meet these two ascended masters named Chinanda and Naja.
The Himalayas, wow, so they're like at the top of the world.
Right. And this retreat is described as being incredibly beautiful and peaceful.
And they have a magic carpet.
Yeah. They actually get to ride on a magic carpet.
Seriously?
Seriously. It's described as being this incredible experience where they're just floating through the air.
Wow, so magic carpets are real.
Well, according to the book, yes.
Okay, I'm starting to think I need to get myself a copy of this book.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild ride.
Yeah.
And then they meet this being called the Great Divine Director, who's described as the cosmic master who trained Jesus in Saint Germain.
The Great Divine Director, now that sounds important.
He's basically the highest authority in the Ascended Master hierarchy.
And he trained Jesus.
Right, he's like the ultimate spiritual teacher.
Wow.
And the Great Divine Director actually conducts an initiation ceremony for Godfré Ray King and the Rayborn family. And he bestows upon them new types of bodies and the ability to use unlimited cosmic energy.
Wow, so he gives them like a spiritual upgrade.
Yeah, and he bypasses the usual 2-year training period because he says that they're ready.
So they're like the chosen ones.
You could say that. And during the ceremony, the Great Divine Director emanates these rays of light that clear their inner sight and hearing.
So it's like a spiritual awakening.
Exactly. And with that, the book comes to an end.
Wow, what a journey. So what stood out to you most about the magic presence?
Well, for me, it's the sheer audacity of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, this book is making some extraordinary claims about the nature of reality and the potential of human consciousness.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical spiritual self-help book.
Right. It's more like a blend of science fiction, mysticism, and spiritual philosophy.
And it's all presented as being completely true.
Right. And that's what makes it so fascinating and so challenging.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think is the main takeaway for the listener?
I think the main takeaway is that we all have this incredible potential within us, this divine spark that we can connect with and that can empower us to create amazing things.
Okay, so it's about remembering who we really are.
Exactly. And the book is saying that we have help. We have these ascended masters who are guiding us and supporting us, and we just need to open ourselves up to their assistance.
And to tap into our own mighty I am presence.
Exactly.
That's a powerful message.
It is. And it's a message that I think can really resonate with people who are seeking a deeper understanding of themselves and the universe.
Yeah, for sure. So what's one question that the listener can ponder after listening to this episode?
I think a good question to ponder is, if these ascended masters are real and they're working to help humanity, what can you do to align yourself with their efforts?
That's a good one. So how can we be of service to the divine plan?
Exactly. And how can we tap into our own inner power to create a better world?
That's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the magic presence. It's been an incredible journey.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot.
Me too. And we encourage you to explore this book further and see what resonates with you.
And if you have any books that you'd like us to deep dive into in the future, be sure to let us know.
Thanks for listening.